so cute.
They're in there because they're too small.
Okay.
You put the pigs to sleep. Sorry. Maybe they were comfortable.
Hi there, Mama. Hi there, Mama.
What's the pig say?
That's so cute. Little piggy love. That one's cute because it's just itself. Willow.
That one's not real.
Hi guys, so the introduction to this video that you have just seen is not something that I will have often on my channel because I do not have any farm animals. What you just saw was a couple little clips, and I think if I can enter photos I will, of a friend of mine's farm. They raise chickens and some beef cows, lots of pigs. And they had a event this past Saturday where they just had people to their farm to see everything, and I decided to go and just take a couple of little videos and clips of things. So you saw the baby calf, there were some chickens, they have meat birds and egg layers, and they have a couple of pigs with little piglets. So I thought it would just be fun to insert a couple of those because it's not something that I see all the time. I get a lot of my pork from them. I get eggs from them. So it was really fun to just go see their farm, and that was only part of their farm. They have a bigger area where they keep most of their cows, all their egg-laying chickens, that kind of thing. But they just had a little event where a bunch of families with their kids can come out and tour their little farm. So that was a lot of fun, super cute to see the calf. I think he was my favorite. But I thought I would just put that in this video. And now I will take you back to when I planted potatoes. I did that on Thursday. I got my potatoes finally in the ground. So I thought I would just explain what the farm animals were. They are not mine, they are friends. Maybe one day I will have some animals on my, you know, for my own. But I will now play the video I took from when I planted potatoes on Thursday, and the farm animals were on Saturday, so a little out of order, but that's okay. So I hope you enjoy it, and we will catch you in the next video. Here you go, watching the potatoes. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie if you're new. I'm actually over at my grandma's house in the backyard because I have some garden space here that I've been using for the last couple years. Where this garden is used to be where our pool was. We had an above ground pool right here, and this area in the backyard gets the most sun. So we have quite a bit of landscaping and stuff on this other side of this deck, and so this area was what I had to work with. So I'm going to flip you around, and this is what I have. I started with these two cinder block beds, and that's all I had for about a year. And then last year I added these cattle panels for tomatoes. So I went and bought these cattle panels from a Tractor Supply, and the T-posts and everything. And they worked really well with my tomatoes last year. And I've just left these up. Not sure if I'm going to use every single one this year. I have 3. I am probably going to do my tomatillos over here, as well as some of my hot peppers, if not all my hot peppers. So I bought more compost today that I'm going to just add on top of what I had established last year. My potato beds they're still sort of here, but they've pretty much, you know, kind of blended in with everything else. So I had a bed here of potatoes and then one right here. I just have more compost that I'm going to add in the same section because it gets the most sun in this area. So I have more compost to add on top. I'm going to kind of rake up the little bit of pine straw and stuff. We have a lot of pine trees here and a lot of shade with this whole fence line and all of these trees over here. So, you know, it works, but I just kind of battle a whole lot of shade. So this big thing right here is a pineapple sage. It got massive last year, really pretty flowers. And I haven't trimmed it back or anything, so I need to do that. I'm probably going to do that now. I've never grown this before, and I just bought it as a very small started plant, and it has just, I mean, it's massive. So hopefully I actually have all these seeds that I could save. But I'm going to trim it back a little bit. I have this half of the bed to use, so I will probably put some peppers in here. This is the other bed of garlic that I have, and this garlic is looking amazing. There is no hint of yellowness at all like it is in the buckets, and I think that's just because I've had this bed established now for at least 3 years, and I just keep adding compost on top, and it's done really well. I've actually left this garlic alone for the most part. I fertilized it just now with that Neptune's Harvest, and this soil is just really rich and dark. I have mulched with straw over here. I got a couple straw bales, and I've mulched with that over here for the most part. And this bed of garlic is just doing amazing. I cannot wait to harvest all of this. And for the most part, the squirrels have left it alone. There's a couple of holes throughout, but they haven't interfered with any of the garlic. So this garlic's looking amazing. It's just making me super happy. And I'm tempted to kind of dig down and see what the garlic bulbs look like, but I'll just wait. So yeah, I did do peppers in here in this bed last year over the summer, and most of my pepper plants last year were stunted, and so I bought a bunch of them as started plants, and they did okay. I got a handful of peppers, but the garlic has done the best here. So that's where we're at with that. I built or put together these T-posts, and my plan last year was to have cucumbers growing up these pieces of twine. Problem is, all my cucumber plants got eaten before they even made it to the twine, and being that it's outdoors and exposed to all the elements, this stuff just sort of, you know, rotted away in the ground, being constantly wet. So I will have to think of something different to use outside other than this twine, but I still want to try to use the same system. So I'm going to transport these PVC pipe and posts to my house to try to do the same system. I'll just find a different material for the cucumbers to climb up. This bucket is going to be going, I had tomatoes in here last year. This is going to go to my house. The asparagus is going to go to my house. This is year 2 of my asparagus. I have not planted it last year. This will be year 2. So, or I have planted it last year. I did plant it last year. So I will leave this asparagus alone. I planted quite a few crowns of asparagus in this bucket, and since I'm not here over every day, it's obviously filled with pine straw and all, but I do have, you know, a few that are popping up. I just fertilized this as well, but as you can see, they're just allowing it to grow again, and next year, hopefully, if I can keep this going, I'll be able to harvest some asparagus. So that's that. So that is pretty much all that's in use here. I had some areas established in the back over here, but it's just too shaded. Nothing back here grew. I had three spots. I still need to take this down, but I had 3 spots. And this is where I actually tried to grow my garlic last year. And there's one that I guess I missed. 1 or 2 actually, there's 2. But I tried to go this here last year, and there's just absolutely no sun back here. So nothing grew at all. This is about the point where my garlic got, and then it all just sort of died. So I've just given up in this area. But it's a garlic shoot from last year. This one is trying to grow. So this area just was not, it gets patches of sun, but not full sun. So I'll just clean this mess up, and I'll keep the cattle panels up for now because I don't want to do any kind of in-ground beds at my house since we are renting. So I'm just gonna leave these up here for now, and I'll probably use them for some tomatillos and stuff like that. I had some basil planted around each one last year. So that is what this area looks like. And this weekend we'll be transporting these buckets, you know, the posts. I've got some small fencing that I found at an estate sale, and I thought these would be good trellises for something. I don't know, I was thinking flowers or something small. So those are gonna go. But that's what this space looks like. And right now the garlic is doing the best out of anything that I've planted back here, because it's just in a prime location. So I am going to unload those bags of compost, kind of reshape these 2 beds for the potatoes. Depending on the time, I had errands that took way longer than they should have done today, so I may just leave that stuff here and come back tomorrow and actually plant them, get the spaces ready. Maybe I'll just have time to unload everything and maybe load some of this smaller stuff up. But that is what I've got going on. I think in the front, I don't have much on this side. This is a lot of the landscaping and building that my dad did. I don't have much on this side, but I did plant some rosemary in this pot, and I've harvested a lot from it this past fall and winter. So I just fertilized that, kind of gave it a boost. I had some sage over here, which is looking good still, surprisingly. There's a spider web in here. Got some sage here, and I had some lemon basil right here. I already pulled a ton of seeds off of this, but this was lemon basil. And just some random, this is a fig tree. We've gotten lots of figs off of this tree. My dad and mom put that in way back when. It's gotten huge. And then I put this mint in last year. I've got a spearmint and it's 2 different types of mint. I can't remember the other one. I have a spearmint and something else, but the mint's been doing really good, and it smells good. I cut it back over the winter, and it's popping back up pretty nicely. If you don't know, mint is a bully in the garden, so it's best to keep it in a container unless you don't care that it takes over everything. So I won't be surprised if when it kind of died off, went to seed and all, I won't be surprised if there'll be mint growing down here from now on. I don't see any at the moment, but it is possible that we will get mint growing all over this area of the pond, because it just takes over everything. So I put it in this pot, and it does really well back here, the amount of sun and shade that this section gets. it's great to pick for tea. I love to put it in my tea or water, that kind of thing. So that's what I've got over here, this section. Let's put you back in there where you should be. Oh, maybe not. Lots of little things around this garden, this yard. Okay. I do have a compost bin that my mom left. And I actually have stuff in it. I'm curious to see if there's anything in it. I haven't touched this compost bin for some time. So I'm curious. It's looking pretty good. I haven't kept up with it like I should. Last year I was able to use. There you are. Last year I was able to use quite a bit from that compost bin, and I just, any kind of kitchen scraps that I could compost, coffee grounds, banana peels, lots of eggshells, that kind of thing, I just would dump it all in there. I actually put in our pumpkins, a pumpkin that had that we had left that was starting to rot. I actually put it in there, and I had pumpkin seed sprouts all over the place. And I used some of that compost in one of the veggie pods last spring, and it actually started to grow a plant. So I left it thinking I could get maybe some pumpkins. And one started to grow, but it was too late in the season to actually harvest that pumpkin. It wasn't getting really big very fast, and it was already close to fall. And I wanted that space for herbs and that kale, that kind of stuff. So I took it out. It was already starting to get a lot of mildew and all that stuff. So, but that was funny. So anyway, I'm going to unload what I got today and probably tomorrow, because it already is time to start thinking about dinner and all that stuff. I will come back tomorrow and finish this video on me planting some potatoes. So we will see you when we come back and do that. All right, guys, so it's actually the same day. I just said that I'd come back tomorrow, which will be Friday, but why not take advantage of the cooler temps here in the evening? So I'm gonna plant these potatoes right now. So I've got the 2 plots. I just sort of raked lightly on top so I can figure out where they were again. We have really bad, what is this called, like centipede grass or something. It just, grows like crazy. So I kind of raked up these 2 spots, and I'm gonna spread the compost on top. I'll kind of mix the mushroom first and then some of the cow manure over the top. I don't have any worm castings, but I do have a different type of fertilizer, which is the Fox Farms Marine Cuisine. Our seed store downtown actually did a seminar last Saturday, I believe, about Fox Farms. A guy came and talked all about what they have, their Happy Frog and all of that. So I'm going to use that Marine Cuisine, sprinkle that on top. I believe, let's see, the back says, this is all organic, all the Fox Farms Happy Frog stuff. It's all organic fertilizer, and it says this is going to be a new in-ground plant. So it's 1 tablespoon per gallon of soil. So after I get the compost on top, I'm going to sprinkle some of that on top. I'll just use my best guess. And we will get these potatoes in the ground, because I actually haven't opened up these bags, but I'm sure they are not looking too great. So I'm going to get you set up here. I think that'll work, don't you? Yeah? Maybe? We'll try that. Okay. Hi guys, I was just editing this video and realized that I did not have the camera placed properly, As you can see, it sort of cuts off the entire top half of me, and I just didn't like how that looked on the video. So I will just explain what I'm doing, and we'll go from here. So I am spreading this bag of mushroom compost over the area. I have 2 bags of this, so I will do 1 bag on each section. And how I like to plant my potatoes is in a mound. So I will just kind of make a big mound all the way down, and I'll end up planting the potatoes kind of in the middle of it. And that's how I like to do it. I don't dig them down into the ground and then I don't like to have to use any sort of fork or anything to get the potatoes out. So if you do this mound version, all you have to do is just keep adding mulch on top as the plants grow. And then by the time you go to harvest, your potatoes are at the surface level of the soil. So you don't have to dig down deep to get them out. This is my second time growing potatoes. I am no expert, but this is the way I've seen it done from several people, and it seems to work really well, especially if you don't want to have to dig down into the dirt super deep to get all your potatoes out. You can risk puncturing them and missing several, so this way seems to work for me very well. So here I'm just gonna spread some of this cow manure on top, and I'll mix it in a little bit. My grandma had just come out she likes to come out and see what I'm doing when I'm in the backyard, and just asking about the potatoes. She actually, I don't think she grew up on a farm, but they did have areas where they grew beans and all kinds of things, and she remembers having to go out and just harvest beans like crazy. And so anytime I'm gardening in the backyard, she likes to see what I'm growing, and it's just a real pleasure to be able to have her come out. I gave her a lot of fresh tomatoes last year. She just loves that I'm growing all the things. So here I'm talking about, we do have a lot of pine trees in our area, and the pine needles will leak a lot of acid into your soil. And I don't know exactly which plants don't like that much acid and which plants do, but I know it can kind of hinder a lot of growth for things. So I just, I try to keep my beds free of pine needles, but that's near impossible. So if you have a lot of pine trees in your area, just maybe be mindful of how much acid that they're leaking. You might have to use different fertilizers. I've never really looked into it too much, but there are some plants that don't mind it, and there are some plants that do. So that is one thing that I'm aware of, but I don't really take measures to try to figure out what I need to do to combat all the acid that the pine needles leak. So I finished the first bed. I am now going to work on the second bed. And these aren't huge areas. You'll see in a minute the amount of potatoes that I got. I only got 2 pounds of each kind. And so I don't have that many to plant. So that these plots aren't big at all. I did start, when I first did this last year, I started with a couple bags of potting soil. I think at the time I used Bacto potting soil. Right now all I use is the Fox Farms Ocean Blend, and I really like that. But I did use the Bacto for the start of most of these areas in this backyard, the cinder block beds, the cattle panels, any area I've planted stuff in, I was using Bacto. And I just put that down because we had a lot of sand in this area from where our pool was. We filled it with sand first to make everything level. And so the soil wasn't that great, and we have a lot of this grass and everything. So I did start with a couple of bags of potting soil, and from then on, throughout the seasons, I just add compost on top, organic compost. So that's what I'm doing today. I do decide here, once I add some of this cow manure on the second bed, I'm just going to add it to the cinder block bed behind me because I will end up using that bed for some peppers, I think. So I will need to buy more compost for that bed, to amend that bed, and that way it'll be ready for planting here in a few weeks. It is almost time to plant things outside. I have about a month left or so. The middle of April is when I'm going to be able, hopefully, to transplant all my seedlings outdoors, barring any kind of late frost that we have. By the time you see this video, the night before, actually, we had another freeze. It barely hit 32, so I brought all the flowers that I had just bought inside because I didn't want them to die. So I brought those into my extra room for the night. So we have 2 nights or so of another freeze, and then it'll start warming up again. Right here, I'm using the Fox Farms Marine Cuisine fertilizer. This is something new for me. I think I've said before in a video, I don't stick with just one type of fertilizer, but since I am adding new compost, I need to kind of amend this section. I wanted to use this Marine Cuisine. It did smell horrible because it's all, sea life. But I just sprinkled some on top. I didn't really measure anything to the T, but I just sprinkled some on top. The directions said to mix it in about 6 inches or so. And then I don't water anything until after I plant. The soil or the compost that I just added was kind of already damp in a way. It wasn't extremely wet or saturated or anything, but it wasn't super dry. So I like to plant my things in that type of soil or compost, and then I water everything in at the end. So I'm just going to sprinkle that on and then go ahead and mix it in. And I've got 2 types of potatoes here. I've got Yukon Gold potatoes and red Pontiac potatoes. They're the same types that I grew last year. And even though I didn't get gallons and gallons because I don't cut my potatoes in half, I leave them whole when I plant them. They did really well. And I like the Yukon Golds and red potatoes for cooking. So I'm going to do 1 type of potato in each bed. That way they'll stay separate. And you'll see as soon as I open this bag, some of these potatoes were already trying to sprout pretty well. I'll have a closer view here in a second, but you can kind of see some of those got some good sprouts trying to grow. So I needed to get these in the ground today. Let's bring you over here. So the method I did last year is what I'm going to stick with. I put these kind of on the top of the mound, and then I will cover them with the soil, and then as they start to sprout and grow, as the foliage starts to grow, I'm going to just keep mulching on top. Just keep adding mulch, and I'll probably use straw. I do have another straw bale under there that I just never used last year, so it needs to be used. But I'm just going to lay these out roughly, I don't know the proper spacing of potatoes, but what I did last year is I kind of staggered them like this. But this time I'm probably going to do about 8 inches or so in between. And I probably will have to stagger a couple actually. So let's do one here. I'll get these kind of spaced out the way they should be. See, they're already trying to grow. If you're wanting a big harvest of potatoes, you would cut these. See where these eyes were? Now they've sprouted. So I would probably have cut this potato in half in between these two spots, and then you let it just sit kind of in a cool, dry place for a few days to kind of scab over, if you will, and then you plant each of those pieces. So I would get 2 plantings from this one, but you look for the eyes on the potato and make sure each piece, I would cut this one in half because I got one at each end. So that's if you would want more potatoes to harvest. I don't have room for gallons and gallons of potatoes, and this is the only space that I'm using, so I do not need to cut these all in half. That's what I got. Oh, I got the one down here. Let's switch this around. Put you here, 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 you right here. Okay, so now I'm just going to cover these potatoes. Keep forgetting I have a camera in my hand, so apologies. Same thing about as you do vegetables, a couple good inches under the ground here. Once it rains, or once I water it, it'll kind of settle the dirt. So and this is only my second year growing potatoes, so I am no expert by any means. I just know I got pretty decent harvest last year, and I'm doing the exact same thing this year. So that was all my red Pontiac. Over here I'm gonna do the Yukon Golds. These are the only 2 types of potatoes that I've ever done, so I'm not sure if they're all the same when it comes to planting them. But okay, so this 2 pounds, these were a lot bigger, so I only have 2, 3. That's a big one. 3. And that's equally as big. That's a massive potato. 4 and 5. So I only have 5 of these guys, but I am okay with that. In the future, I would hope to have a whole lot more planting space for a whole lot more potatoes. But for now, this is what I'm doing. I did have, when I dug up the potatoes last year, I did have a whole lot of worms in these beds that I had to kind of fight through to get to my potatoes. I like worms in the garden. I understand what they're good for. I do not like to touch them or mess with them, so it was really gross. But there we are. We have planted our potatoes finally. And I already put the fertilizer down. So I will give this a water. Probably gonna water my asparagus too, but I'll give this a good water, and I will come back at another time and tear that straw bale apart to mulch on top. It's kind of I did sort of start last year. I have a rake, maybe I should do that now. I'll make up my mind here in a second. We're gonna go ahead and mulch. I like to use straw. You do get some grass that will kind of sprout, but it's real easy to tear up. I don't have strictly weeds around here. I get a ton of pine straw, so there's no sense in trying to rake and use that as mulch. But the straw is easy to use. And as the potatoes grow, I will just keep adding more straw, mounding up around it. This will just hold a lot of moisture because it's gonna get real warm. So just breaking these pieces up. When your straw is dry and fresh, it's a lot easier to work with, but that's what we got. All right, there we have it. So now I am going to water this in. water my asparagus because it has been so hot, and I used to have a sprinkler out here, but I currently don't have it set up, so we are moving that in a couple days, I guess, so I should not water that too much because it's going to be a lot lighter if the soil is a little bit drier. Garlic is looking great, but I am going to give it a good spritz because I did put some liquid fertilizer on it a little bit earlier. Okay, we are done. So that, my friends, is how I do my potatoes. Nothing too complicated or fancy, but it works. So let me know if you liked to see this. I had wanted to show you this garden the last couple weeks, but I just haven't made it over here to do a video, so this was the time to do it. And probably by the next video, these asparagus buckets and this bucket over here, along with these posts, T-posts and stuff, they're going to be at my house, and I will get those set up for cucumbers and other things that I'm going to plant in this bucket. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you're planting potatoes this year. Now is the time to do it. So, you know, go ahead and plant those potatoes. And if you're not doing it, you know, put it on your list for next year. It's a really good crop to have, really good staple to have with all kinds of meals. And they're easy to grow. They're really hands off. You don't have to prune anything. You just keep adding mulch on top as they grow. So let me know if you like this. Give it a thumbs up for me. Subscribe if you're new. That way you don't miss any future content. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good day. Bye.